my man got my fly shoes on. Stepping out in my best self-esteem. No, I'm not a size 3, but I'm still happy. Don't listen to what haters say. Just let my inner beauty shine all up in their face. Girls, it's time to take a stand. Don't realize it, but we got the power in our hands. So all my girls around the world, raise your hands if you're a glamour girl. Don't matter who you are, who you're with, you're glamorous. All my ladies feeling glamorous. Glamorous. All my ladies feeling glamorous.
Hey everyone, this is Brandee J, the Brandee J Talk Show on Lux Curves TV, and I'm so excited for this season we have coming up. A lot of great things for season 2, and everything we have coming up is going to be different for all the curvy ladies, all the Lux men, and even with our new set for season 2. I hope you guys like it. But we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with our guests discussing important topics that's affecting Black communities, all communities, the legal system, and how we can improve it. So we'll be right back on the Brandee J Talk Show.
Glamorous, glamorous, all my ladies feeling glamorous.
And we are back on the Brandee J Talk Show, Lux Curves TV, and we have the beautiful, I was pronouncing her name Genevieve, but it's Geneviéve Jones-Wright, right? Okay. I always try to practice in my head, and then when I say it, I'm like, okay, I'm so sorry. But thank you so much for being a guest on our show. Please tell everyone who you are and what you do.
Okay, so first of all, thank you for having me.
Oh,
here.
you're welcome.
Native San Diegan, and I just ran for district attorney for San Diego County.
Yes.
I'm a public defender. I've been doing criminal defense work since 2004. I started off doing it on my own in private practice, and then I went to become a public defender in Riverside County, and now I'm back home.
Wow.
Been doing it here in San Diego as a public defender for 12 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is a person we all need in our back pocket. What made you decide to want to be a public defender?
So when I was in 4th grade, I learned about Justice Thurgood Marshall, who of course was our first African-American Supreme Court Justice.
Yes.
And from there, I decided that I wanted to be an attorney just like him.
Okay.
And so from there, I decided in the 4th grade that not only was I going to be an attorney, but I had to go to Howard Law because that's where he went. So I was the first person in my family to ever even go to college.
Wow.
And went on to Howard Law and knew that I wanted to use the law as a tool to make our world better. That's what I got from Thurgood Marshall. And so from a 4th grader, I set out to do it, and that's why I'm a public defender.
I'm going to soak some of her essence up and give it to my kids and all the youth because, you know, I realized my passion probably in like 6th grade, but to hear you wanting to be a public defender and to be in law, that's just amazing. And my family background has, we've had our deals with the legal system. My dad was in and out of prison, and I always felt like the legal system wasn't set up for him to succeed after as a Black man. And that's been the talk amongst in the world, like it's not set up to succeed. What are your thoughts about that?
So the first thing I'll say is we all know someone who's been a part of the criminal justice system.
Exactly.
And I think that's something we have to start taking ownership of, that everyone is affected by the justice system, by the legal system, instead of stigmatizing it. We start to stigmatize things like people who have been incarcerated, mental illness, and then people don't want to come forward and say, well, we've had this issue in my family. We're never going to be able to address the issues. And there's so many problems, so many flaws in our justice system, and they do affect Black and brown people a lot more than our white counterparts.
Exactly.
It affects our children in a different way than it affects other groups.
And they don't when my father, I was 10 when he first got arrested. And that's when it was brought to my attention what he was doing. I was blind, I was a child, but they don't see the effects, how it does affect the children.
Absolutely.
And how it affects the household. And being a kid going to visit my dad in prison, that whole situation was traumatic for me. What do you mean daddy can't come home? Why do I have to talk to daddy through a glass? And it's just, I always felt like they had it out for him when he first got arrested to the last time he was arrested. And it just really made me look at our justice system in not a healthy way.
It's really not a healthy system at all. So right now we know that if your parents have been incarcerated, you are more likely at risk to be incarcerated yourself. And instead of us designing a system that helps to keep children from ever entering the justice system, we've created a trap. And so we've created this system where there's a revolving door. And it's not just revolving for adults, it's revolving for our children. And so we've created a school to prison pipeline. And I really like to call it the preschool to prison pipeline, because we know through federal studies that Black and brown children are more likely to be kicked out of preschool, 3 times more likely than their white counterparts.
Kicked out of preschool?
Yes. And so it's actually a preschool to prison pipeline. And so what we've done is we've created these systems where our children are more likely to be institutionalized. And so they're the ones who are going to be kicked out of preschool. They're the ones who are going to be suspended from school or expelled.
Yes.
They're the ones that are filling up our juvenile detention facilities. And then they're going to be the ones who go on to get institutionalized in our jails and then our prisons. So it's an entire system that has been designed, and we have to disrupt the system.
Do you feel like that system goes back to slavery? I was watching the documentary 13th, and I feel like that documentary opened my eyes even more, but it's something that's been planned out, I feel like, since slavery, and how they want to suppress the brown and Black communities. And so now with, slavery being over, let's do it in another way. Do you feel like the justice system has replaced what they started out with us being slaves?
Absolutely. So I never say that slavery was ever over, because if you look at the 13th Amendment itself, it actually ratified slavery. This was the first time we ever really had a document that said slavery is legal. That's what the 13th Amendment did to the Constitution. It made slavery legal. If you commit a crime, then you can be a slave. You will be a slave legally. That's your punishment. And so that's what the reality of the 13th Amendment is. And so it's not a modern day slavery.
Exactly.
It is slavery. And so then when you talk about the other institutions that we have in our systems, like police departments and how they were created, what they were created for, why they were established, you start to really get an understanding about how every single thing is intentional.
Yes.
And it wasn't an accident.
It's not an accident. It was designed for this. It was designed to hold our communities down. Absolutely. It was designed to say, you're less than what we think you are. And I feel like once they feel like, us, the Black communities and brown communities, say, no, we're not, then that's when the pushback comes. That's when more issues come. Like, I feel like there's more, maybe because there's more internet now than growing up, but more police brutality, more young Black men being killed. I feel like they're trying to erase us or remind us, oh no, you're this and you're that.
So I can say so much about this. I can say so much. But it's not on accident, right? African Americans don't even make up 6% of San Diego County's population. We're at 5.6%. Yes. We make up nearly a quarter of our county's jail population. So just let that sink in. We're not even 6%, but we make up nearly 25% of our county jail population. And we know it's not accidental. We've had an independent study by SDSU that said African Americans are stopped more than their white counterparts.
Yes.
African Americans and Latinos are searched more than their white counterparts, and less likely to have illegal items on them. So you're searching us more, but yet we have less contraband on us.
Exactly.
African Americans, Latinos, and Asian American Pacific Islanders are all subjected to field interviews more than their white counterparts. So what that means is that Black and brown people are being put in databases that are being used to document gang members, to track certain people. Well, why are we being subjected to these databases more than our white counterparts while driving down the street? And we've seen where our city officials, I do not call people leaders anymore. Unless you have earned that word. You've earned that title to describe you. But we saw where San Diego City Council says, oh yeah, that's great, that's nice, we're not going to adopt any of the recommendations to actually address those things.
Address it.
SDPD did not do much better than the city council. They want to push against everything. And so when we start to open our eyes And we say, well, first of all, as Black and brown people, we never needed a study. We knew this was happening. We know that racial profiling happens. But great, we need a study for the city council. But for them to sit and say we're not going to do anything about it, for our police chief, now our former police chief, but now we have another police chief. What are you going to do about it now that we know this is a documented problem? They haven't done anything in the 2 years since that study came out and it had been discussed at city council.
And they just want to keep brushing it under the rug.
Absolutely.
I had an experience where I was driving in Pacific Beach and I got pulled over and it was by a white cop, and he said, the first thing he said, he didn't even ask for my my license or my insurance. He says, what are you doing in this area? I said, excuse me? He said, what are you doing here? What do you mean? What? I'm like, that's the first question you asked me because I'm Black in Pacific Beach? Like, I'm coming from the beach. Like, what do you why are you here? It just baffled me. And I was just like, wow, this is like, you took an oath to serve and protect, but you're not serving and protecting because you are profiling me because I'm a Black woman in Pacific Beach.
Oh, yeah. And so that is something that is very common when they believe that we shouldn't be in certain areas.
Yes.
So even if you look at the study, in the areas where we are not so predominant in the population, that's where a lot of the racial profiling happened. And so I can tell you that in January of 2016, I was in the beach area. One of my colleagues had passed away and we had a memorial service there. I was maybe one of 2 or 3 Black people who were there. It's not a lot of Black people in my office, but I was there at the memorial service.
Yeah.
And as I was leaving to go back home, and I live in Southeast San Diego, born and raised there, bought my home there, proudly live in Southeast San Diego. And I'm leaving to go home, and all of a sudden, I start to see in my rearview mirror that there is 1 patrol car behind me, now 2, now 3, now 4. And so as I'm going all the way from the beach area, driving now on the 94. So they followed me all the way from the 8 to the 94. And as I'm getting off on my exit on Euclid, I said to myself, if they exit with me, I'm going to start to record. And so I started to record because I didn't feel safe.
Exactly.
And so I exited and I went down a few blocks, stopped at stoplights. There were never any sirens, nothing. As soon as I get to the light to turn left on Market Street, that was also red. Soon as it turned green, they lit me up. And so I'm like, really? And so I pull over. I'm in front of the Tubman Chavez Center.
Yes, exactly what you're talking
and
about.
And so I'm parked right there. And if you know the street.
Yeah, I know the street.
So there's always these big Mack trucks.
Yes.
So I got Mack trucks in front of me. I got the Malcolm X Library across the street. By the way, I had just come from there before the memorial service because I coached Lincoln High School mock trial. So now at this point, people are coming out of the library. They're looking at me because there's all of these patrol cars and they're shouting all these commands at me. They never came to my window, never said license, registration, insurance, ma'am, which they should have done.
Exactly.
They had guns pointed at me. They had K9 dogs. And they're yelling at me to get my keys out of the ignition. And I'm like, first of all, it's keyless entry. But I'm not going to get out of this car until you tell me why you are pulling me over. So it took me a few, hey, no, why are you
pulling me over?
Exactly. And then he's like, some bogus reason about your license plates don't match the car. And I think he tried to say at first that the car was stolen. There was never a report of a car that looks like mine, my make, model, description, that was stolen. There was no report that my license plates were stolen or anything. What ended up happening was they looked in their system, which, by the way, why are you running my plates?
Exactly.
Everyone else who's leaving the memorial,
but you want to run my plates.
Exactly. And why does it take 7 patrol cars, at least 7, with multiple officers? Why does it take guns and K9s when you could have just come up and said, do you have registration to your car? I'm seeing that these plates belong to a Camry, you're driving a Nissan, whatever it was. But they decide to put me in handcuffs, put me in the back of the patrol car, even though, because I knew why they were pulling me over.
Driving while black?
I knew, right? Because I had demanded an answer. And, so for everyone out there, just for your purposes, always get the reason why they're pulling you over. Because I was able to address it as soon as I got out. It said my registration is in the glove compartment. You can look in there, but they didn't look. So they put me in the back of the patrol car. There was all this stuff that happened. They finally say, oh, we finally looked in your glove compartment. Yeah, the license plates belong to your car. But this is after, and I'm watching them. They had canines in my trunk. I don't know what they were looking for.
And they're not even supposed to search your car without a search warrant.
And had no reason to. So I'm videoing all of this, and it's picking up the dog that's inside of my passenger compartment. They're all inside of my car, not just the trunk, but in the cab area of my car. I mean, just ridiculous. And at the time, I'm sitting in the patrol car like, are they planting evidence on me? Do they know who I am? Do they know what job I do? I mean, everything goes through your head. Sandra Bland had just happened. I don't know if I'm ever going to see my family again. Are they going to arrest me for something bogus?
And it's sad we have to think that way.
Absolutely.
But we have to think that way as Black women. And that's why for me, Black people, period. Like, when I see the cop, I'm like, okay, let me just, because I got to make a home to my children.
Yes.
I have to do this right. But we're going to take a quick break. So we'll be right back.
Glamorous, all my ladies feeling glamorous.
And we are back on the Brandee J talk show. We have the beautiful, I'm going to mispronounce her name because in my head I just keep wanting to say Genevieve, but it's, let me see, Geneva? No.
Say what you think it is and add an Ev on the end.
Geneviéve. She stood out of Ev. Public defender, amazing woman all around in the legal system, and ran for district attorney. I was rooting for it. You don't understand, just seeing your commercials, seeing it just made me smile. My son was like, "Mommy, she's Black." I say, "Yes." But what it does for our kids, what it does for our community in so many ways. How was that experience running?
It was wonderful. It was amazing. It's something incredible to say that you're going to take on an entire political machine. And I did it. And we built a movement. And so it's not over. The fight continues. And we have to hold people accountable. And the biggest thing for me is that we were able to educate people along the way. A lot of people didn't realize that we actually have a say in who our district attorney is. And so a lot of what I did around the county was talking to people and letting them know that you have a vote in who the DA is. And for a long time, they've just been shoving people down our throats. A lot of people haven't been engaged in the process. The other part of it was just seeing people really walk into their power, right? Being able to say, we don't want a district attorney who prosecutes more children as adults than they prosecute wage theft cases. And it just was amazing. It was amazing. It still is amazing to see people say, what's next?
Yes.
I was rooting for you and we need you.
Exactly.
And so it's just been amazing. There has never been a person of color as a district attorney in San Diego County, which we've obviously talked about the fact that that system affects people who look like us a lot more.
It affects everyone. And like I said, seeing you run, and I'm not gonna lie, when I woke up and I saw the results, I was disappointed. I just feel like right now we need more diversity. We need more women of color, men of color in these positions, because I just feel like the state of, not even just the state of San Diego, but the state of the world. It's just not where it needs to be. And like you said, we need someone who is going to fight for everyone, not just one particular race.
Absolutely.
Because San Diego, like I can tell people, I said, we do exist out here. Like there's Black people, there's Mexicans, we are a diverse melting pot, San Diego, but what they portray is as if we don't exist.
And that's because that's who the power holders are. And so a lot of what was happening in that race was simply the status quo trying to maintain power. And so there has never been a person of color to ever even try to run for the district attorney. And obviously someone who is from Southeast San Diego and someone who is as young as me. The bigger thing that I saw was that my opponent was able to play to her base.
Yes.
She was able to be a racist openly. She was able to
just
be
like,
anti-Semitic.
Just like
openly.
the man in the White House.
Absolutely. The same person that she wouldn't, renounce or denounce any of his policies. She did all of that in her campaign. And how do you have a district attorney who can't represent every single person?
Exactly.
They actually used the fact that I was racially profiled against me, and I'm thinking, gosh, I was a victim here.
Exactly.
And so it was disturbing at times. It was nasty and it was vile, but I always held my head high. I never stooped down to her level. I always stayed on message because we have way too many issues to address. And I always wanted to talk about the message of the hope of true justice. And so that is a message that resonated with people. That's the message I'm going to continue with. And so again, I say the fight is not over. And when you talk about everything that's happening, not just in San Diego, but just around the country, around the world, I'm wearing this bracelet. Families belong together. Why do we even need to say that? But let's look at what's happening in Washington, D.C. And a lot of times what happens federally doesn't really impact us, but we are a border city.
We are very.
And this is impacting us. We have private prisons right here in San Diego, various ones that are housing children.
To me, when I saw, I was just like, I felt disgusted. I felt like, this is really America? Like, this is really America. This is what we're doing. We're having these children separated from what? And like, why aren't we doing more to help them? Like, at the end of the day, put race to a side. This is humanity. Like, how can you someone sit back and say this is okay, and the people in power not do anything? And I've honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I've lost hope in our justice system. I lost hope in community. I can't even call them leaders, like you said, community people in office, because what are you doing besides wanting to build a stadium? What are you doing besides, like, what are you doing that's really affecting the young people, us? What are you doing to enhance us, to change, to make our lives better? I feel like it's getting worse.
You're right. The city will say, I'll give the Chargers $2 million to stay in San Diego, but you can't help with housing first initiatives for all of these unsheltered people. And so we've got to get people in these positions who understand humanity and who honor humanity and who have compassion. And that was something I talked a lot about on the campaign trail, is that we have been missing compassion, care, and concern. And there was something else you said that I want to touch on. It was something that I did speak on at the rally for Keeping Families Together. It is that we are saying it's un-American, and we are saying, oh my gosh, what is America doing? But we have to remember that before they did this to Latino families, separating them.
They did it to Black families.
They did it to African Americans. They did it to Africans. They did it to Black people, because that's how they got the institution of slavery.
Yes.
To be
profitable. They saw it as a
there
profit.
There you have it. So I'm going to split up the kids. I'm going to split. Well, first of all, there's no such thing as marriage.
Exactly.
So I'm going to split up husbands and wives. I'm going to split mothers and daughters, fathers and sons. They didn't respect the family unit. And then we saw it again with Native Americans, where they said, I'm going to take all of your children. I'm going to move them over. I'm going to remove them from your lands, take them somewhere else so that they can assimilate and learn white culture. This is America. And so for all that we talk about, we really have to understand that if we don't honor history and learn from it, we are going to be doomed to repeat it. And I feel like this is what we're doing.
Exactly.
We are just repeating history. All of this racism that is on the surface right now, I don't ever believe that we ever move past racism. We've never been post-race. We've never...
I feel like when the era of the Obamas, for one milestone, for me to have my dad call me crying, as a Black man, to see it. And then I felt like America, majority of that America got was like, how can this Black man be in power? Let's remind them who they are. So we have the Cheeto in office right now, who I don't acknowledge ignorance, so I don't acknowledge him. So for me, it's just like, with him being beyond racist, lack of humanity, lack of humans, you're starting to see people's true colors. I feel like you're starting to see, there is more racism and it's at the surface, but now you want to be more bold about it. Now you want to act like, oh, you can do this because of what someone in the White House is doing. I remember someone said, let me remind you, this is not slavery. This is not the 1800s. But it's more on the surface where people are being more bold about it.
Yeah.
And have disregard for people. And as if, you know, we're nothing.
Yeah. He emboldened them.
Yes.
So it wasn't that it ever went away.
It
was just that
gave
they
them
had
a power.
to do it not in a way where it was seen necessarily. But we did start to see it with the Obamas, right? They were calling Michelle monkeys and
everything.
I mean, it's crazy.
The
but
disrespect that she received and he received it, and you're just like, so now when
first lady like
exactly, and then now when people they get, you know, besides when they do that to Trump, are you serious? You see what you guys did to our, you know, Michelle Obama. You understand what you did to them, but now it just infuriates me. Mm-hmm. And it's like having, you know, and like I said, having the platform that I have, it's like we have to bring these issues to the topic. We have to not, we can talk about all the feel good stuff, but we have to talk about stuff that doesn't feel good because we have to change it.
Absolutely. And that's the other thing. I get a little upset with some of the elected officials. I'm gonna name people.
Name them because I have one of mine too now.
You know, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, these are on the top of my list right now because when Maxine Waters, you know, we all love Auntie Maxine.
I met her.
She speaks truth to power.
She came to my event a couple weeks ago.
Awesome.
And I was just like, I was like, Auntie Maxine, you're at my event. She's like, yes, baby. Mm-hmm. And her speech she gave to the women one thing she said, she was like, just remember that none of these officials, none of these people in office, and none of these celebrities should not be too busy to not talk to you. Mm-hmm. We're here because of you. And when she said that, I was like, that's it. Like, you know, when people reach out to people to talk to them and to say, how can we do something? They should not be that busy not to respond back.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I just love her because she speaks truth to power.
She does.
And she doesn't care.
She does not care.
And the reason why we're in the situation that we're in is because of people criticizing her for saying, well, you need to be civil. Why? When we were trying to be civil, it wasn't respected. When we were trying to be civil, they said, oh, you guys are always trying to be politically correct. If you remember how like the right talks about, political correctness, why do we need to be politically correct? Now, when Maxine Waters says, we're not going to be civil anymore because you all aren't civil, you're not respecting humanity.
Exactly.
You're not showing care to humans.
Exactly.
Why do you deserve to be shown any sort of care? Now they're like, oh my gosh, she needs to be quiet.
How did she say, like, and I'm just like, are you serious? Like, it just takes me back to what's good for them is good for them. But once we say something, I always think of it, they're thinking, how can they get out of their place?
Oh, yeah.
Because they expect us to be in a certain box. And when we say, no, we're not going to be in that box, we have a voice, then that's when they like, oh my God, I can't believe you said that.
Absolutely. And so they're hypocritical.
Exactly.
Right? So he wants us to wrap it up.
We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Glamorous, all my ladies feeling glamorous.
So before we went to commercial, we were having great discussions about, you know, Maxine Waters and everything we have going on. But one thing I do want to talk about is black on black crime and how it still is on the rise, and how what do we need to do to really take a grip of this and really change it? Because they want us to continue killing each other. For them, I feel like they think, oh, this is perfect. But as a mother, as, you know, in this community, what can we do to stop this?
So I take personal exception with that particular phrase. Mm-hmm. I do not like to use the phrase black on black crime.
Got it.
Because we don't say white on white crime.
Exactly.
We don't say brown on brown crime.
We don't.
And reality is that you interact with people that you're more close to, more so than other people. Mm-hmm. And so, and I hate to say it like this, but as a result of that, you commit more crimes and you do more violence to people who look like you because of that. So what the studies have shown us is that white people kill white people at the same rate that black people kill black people.
But they don't talk about
even
that.
More so.
They don't, but you don't hear that.
Exactly.
You don't hear that on the media. You don't hear that anywhere.
Exactly. And so they coined these phrases, and this goes all the way back to, the 70s, where they want to make us look more menacing. They want to make us look more violent. And it allows for them to have an excuse, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to call out another person, Myrtle Cole. She is our city council president, the only Black person on San Diego City Council. She made some remarks that Black people, and this was in the wake of the SDSU study, the racial profiling. Well, Black people deserve to be racially profiled because we're the ones committing all the crimes.
And how is she still there?
Exactly. Well, Monica Montgomery's going to take her out.
Yes.
So let's all vote for Monica
Montgomery.
Montgomery.
When I interviewed Miss Montgomery, I was like, you have my full support. I endorse Monica Montgomery 100%. And I made the comment to her when I started getting more into politics. I actually reached out to Myrtle Cole's people to interview because I wanted to, I moved back into the district. I was living in Chula Vista, and my father passed away 3 years ago, so I moved back to help my mom out. And I'm back in the district. And I was like, okay, her people turned me down so many times. I was able to interview the mayor of San Diego, and I'm thinking to myself, I can interview the mayor of San Diego. I can't even interview a councilwoman District 4, but I can have Maxine Waters come to an event and so who do you think you are? You just can't make time for people to talk to you.
She doesn't connect with her constituents or the community. And, don't want to get too far off in that, but it's a problem.
It's a problem.
When you're supposed to represent a district and you go onto the dais and you say things like that, and you further make the people you're supposed to represent more vulnerable, you're marginalizing them even more, and you are supposed to represent them, that is a problem. And so we use this excuse of Black on Black crime to say, and we've all heard it, right? We've heard people say, why are you worried about officers killing Black people when Black people are killing Black people? Well, because when Ray Ray kills Dante, Ray Ray goes to jail.
Okay.
These officers have no accountability.
They're
able to shoot unarmed Black men, and it's going to be justified, right? So that's the first thing. I don't like using it, one, because it's not true. But the other part is that it allows for an excuse to be made. And so we need people who are elected officials like Myrtle Cole to stop saying that.
Well, she's gonna stop saying it because she ain't gonna be there anymore.
Right. She's not gonna even have a platform to say that.
She ain't gonna have a platform to say it.
She can say it in her living room. So I think it's dangerous for us to adopt their language. And a lot of what I do is try to rethink everything that I've been programmed to think and say. And some things just sort of just roll off the tongue because these are things
this is what we read, what we heard our whole lives. This is what the media says. So now for me, it's like, why, don't even say that.
Exactly.
And it's just like, it's crime, but it's more like we just have to go back and look at the core issue.
Yes.
And to do more to help our community.
And that's the answer.
That's the answer, is to do more to help our community, to do more to give more programs and more outlets for the youth to do great things. And also the people who are our age, who are doing, for us to go back to the community and say, this is what we need to do to help them. Because if they're doing more positive, they won't have, the negative won't even come to them.
Yeah.
And I feel like even with living back in District 4, it's making it not like, okay, this is a beautiful area. And I was actually, it bothered me. I was at Encanto Park running, doing exercise. And I just looked, and I was just looking around. I was like, why is this park not upkept? I was just thinking that to myself. Like, you go to Eastlake, you go to green grass, it's gorgeous, it's beautiful, but why isn't our parks in our area looking like other cities in San Diego? And it just infuriated me. Well, that's the thing, like, make this place beautiful. What can we do to do more to enhance our district?
We got to elect Monica Montgomery.
Yes.
Who's going to be the voice of that district. And I mean, I really hate to keep saying this, but we've got to get civically engaged. We've got to vote for our people who are going to actually give us a strong voice and who aren't bought.
Yes.
And that's Monica, right? She wasn't drawn into the district.
Exactly.
She's lived in the district all of her life. She still lives in the district, and she has a plan for economic growth for the people of the 4th district. And right now what we're seeing is we have development because Southeast San Diego is really like the last frontier in the city where we can really build.
Exactly.
And so we've seen under the ill leadership of Myrtle Cole that when there were
she said she got a
developments-
Walgreens for us, so we should be excited about that. I heard
Right.
that comment.
and sidewalks. But I also want to make sure that everyone knows.
Okay.
And my girl Monica doesn't toot her own horn, but I want to make sure that everyone understands that when Myrtle Cole got those sidewalks on Market Street that she likes to brag about, when she talks about the Walgreens, it was Monica on your staff working to get those things done. And so we also need to be mindful of reality. And then the other part of it is, this is all you can boast about? I'm sorry. Let's look at what the other districts are boasting about. The 4th district is always given the short end of the stick.
Exactly.
We're not at the table. We do not have powerful and strong representation, even with the person who is the council president. We do not get the budget that we deserve. So there's a lot of problems. Right now, the big discussion is that we're going to have this Live Well Center that's right there where we just talked about, across the street from the Malcolm X Library by the Tubman Chavez Center. This land is going to be given. I don't want to say given as if it's going to be for free, but it's not going to be top dollar to the county. And they're going to build this immense Live Well Center. That's coming about whether we like it or not as the 4th district. They did not come to residents. They did not say, what do you think
And what
about
exactly
a Live Well
is the
Center?
Live Well Center?
You're going to have probation in there. You're going to have mental health services. Now just think about all of that acreage and what we would like to see as a community, right? So I'm not saying that, you know, the Live Well Center can't do good things, but when you force something on a community without any input, of course, we're going to be a little skeptical.
Exactly. So why don't they do the Live Well Center like in Chula Vista, La Jolla,
And that's the thing.
and Point Loma? Or like, why does it have to be in District 4? Oh, I know why it has to be in District 4, because you want to keep that mindset of the area to kind of remind us what this area is really about, versus saying, no, we're elevating, we're better, we're this and that. You want to say, no, let me remind you who you are.
And they're going to be taking some of their offices from Chula Vista and moving it right here. So that is a very valid question, right? So by the time the community was aware of all of this, it was already a done deal. The Board of Supervisors had already made their decision. And so
But
we
isn't
just
it
saw
responsible of the councilwoman in that area to
absolutely.
bring it to the community?
Absolutely it is.
So she didn't bring it to the community.
She didn't do that.
She just agreed to it and then say, here it is.
Well, I'm going to tell you why. They're trying to use it so that that's something else she can tout going into the primary.
Got it.
It's something that she's going to be able to say, but I'm responsible for this Live Well Center. Well, guess what? You brought the community in. Well, actually, she wasn't even a part of bringing the community in. So I'll make sure that that is here and on the record. When the County Board of Supervisors had their last meeting last week and they had the vote, and it was obviously a unanimous vote because their decision had already been made. That's when community members came in to speak pro and con, for and against that particular project. Before that vote, there was very, very little conversation with community members. And of course, it was just a certain part of the community that was invited in. But again, it was after the County Board of Supervisors had already made the arrangements that this was going to happen. So again, there wasn't any input from the community on even yay or nay. Now we're just saying, well, since it's going to happen, can we at least have a say in how it looks?
Exactly.
Can we at least have a say in anything
before you guys just put something in our communities that our kids have to look at that's going to affect our community? I know we're like on time crunch. I could keep talking to you all afternoon because it's really it has affected me, and it has affected, you know, like I said, I moved back into the district in December. So I feel like it's my responsibility to have this platform to get the word out and to see what we can do. What can we do? What can people in the community do to get more involved? I'm coming to you because I want to get more involved. What can I do as a resident living in the neighborhood?
So there's always something going on in the community. There's going to be I guess they're calling it a town hall with the new chief of police, Chief Neslite, and Myrtle Cole. They're doing that at the Jacobs Center. I don't want to give a date, but it's all over social media. It is free. I would tell people to go to things like that anytime they have the opportunity. There is a group, it is on social media, San Diegans for Criminal Justice Reform.
Okay.
Again, in response to the movement that we built to keep the momentum going and to hold people accountable for the things that they said on the campaign trail. Not just the district attorney, but also the sheriff, right?
Yeah.
You can't say you're for bail reform and you're not doing anything about it except writing in that you oppose it, which is not what you said on the campaign trail. So I would say like the page, follow the page. We're circulating petitions and doing things like that. But we just have to be involved. And again, vote in November. This is very critical when we're talking about the House and the Senate in Washington, D.C. We're
Very
seeing
critical.
how the make of the Supreme Court is really important, especially with Justice Kennedy announcing his retirement.
And it's just a lot going on that we need to do. Our voices need to be heard, and we need to stop being quiet.
Yes, and vote for your city council
And
person.
vote for your city, and vote for the right one. Vote for Monica Montgomery. Because she is the new era. She is what the district needs. This is what we need to liven up. They do want to gentrify the area so much to move us out of there. My mother and father, they bought their home in 98. She's like, I ain't going nowhere. Like, I bought this. This is a family home. We're staying, and they keep knocking on her door to sell. And Monica's like, you tell me who they are. So I'm like, we're not selling. Like, we're not going anywhere. But let everyone know where they can find you. If you have social media and everything like that. And, I just want to thank you so much, because this has been an eye-opener. And like I said, I was just so honored you took the time to come and interview with us today.
Honored to be here. Geneviéve Jones-Wright.
Yes.
That's my Facebook. So now I'm a public figure.
Yes,
so I have
you
my
are.
personal page, and I got the public figure page. So Geneviéve Jones-Wright.
And on the personal, you can't get mad if she posted something. Well, thank you so much. And I really feel like everyone, you need to get out, get involved in your communities, vote for your city council. If you're not even in San Diego, wherever you are, what city you are, you need to get involved, because it affects you, it affects your children, it affects your grandchildren, it affects everyone around you, your communities. And enough is enough. I feel like we've seen enough pain. We've seen enough hurt. We've seen enough of this broken system. And when are we going to say enough is enough? So I feel like enough is enough now. Thank you so much for taking the time to interview with us on the Brandee J Talk Show. And we'll see you guys next time.
Take a stand, don't realize it, but we got the power in our hands. So all my girls around the world.